We celebrate them as beacons of entertainment. Each hit showcasing ultimate strength and athleticism.
What a statement that is! The ball's out. Connor took a vicious hit. He's still down, hasn't moved.
But behind the big clashes comes a heavy price. You see, when people play high collision sports, they accept that they may break a few bones.
It even goes beyond contact sports. There are instances, for example, in gymnastics of many head injuries.
But it hasn't been until recently that head trauma and its impacts have come to light. So, what does life look like after retirement from sport? Let's take a deep dive inside the concussion crisis. Boxing was one of the most popular sports across America. People flocked to more fights than the number of seats at some NFL stadiums today.
I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been.
But years in the ring and hit after hit, boxers began developing symptoms like dementia and depression. They're the common signs of people living with a disease known as CTE. It's a serious issue extending to many other sports as well.
The issue is most prevalent in what we would call combat sports and collision sports. Combat sports are the fighting sports, many of which it is permissible and indeed an important tactic to strike people in the head. The contact sports are sports that are played at high velocity, high speed, involve bodily contact, and in that event, people's heads will knock. So there I'm talking about football, I'm talking about rugby, where there's tackling. But even if there's not tackling, we do have head knocks in basketball, we have head knocks in netball.
Over the past few years, a number of players have tragically taken their lives after battling severe episodes of depression. Some of these players have given their brains to science, and the telltale signs of CTE have come to light.
The things we do to one another, okay? Hell, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just tired and confused right now. That's why I say I can't really, I can't say it the way I want to say it. I could answer this real easy at other times, but right now I'm just tired.
Mike Webster is among those who were hailed for his career with the Pittsburgh Steelers and Kansas City Chiefs. It's his work ethic that sent him to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but inside, there was a silent killer.
He threatened to kill strangers. When his teeth fell out, he stuck them back in with super glue. And he zapped himself with a taser gun to try to help him sleep. His cognition and his memory became increasingly worse, and he died with severe dementia.
Scientists don't have a way to diagnose CTE without conducting an autopsy, unfortunately. But research shows many former players had the condition when they were alive, leading many to think hundreds could be living with it today and around the world.
McCartan here off the mark.
The Australian Football League is amongst those to be accused of failing to protect players from brain injury. Up to 32 players have retired with some form of brain trauma since 2009. The AFL rejects the claims and believes their concussion rules are some of the strongest in the world. In 2021, it enforced a timeout for players who experience concussion with a mandatory observation period.
In our modern society, a fundamental tenet or a fundamental building block of our modern society is the principle that people should be compensated if they're injured at work. State and territories have put in place workers' compensation schemes that cover all workers. They cover me, they cover you. They cover people on construction sites, in mining, in offices. There are very few exceptions, and probably one of the main exceptions is for professional sports people.
Tonight, the Denver Broncos face the Kansas City Chiefs.
It's not alone. The NFL spent years saying concussions were relatively safe, But pressure began to mount and the league settled a $765 million class action and began pouring resources into CTE research and preventions.
Most of the focus, most of the research is on prevention. We want to prevent the injury in the first place. Then if there is unfortunately an injury, the focus then turns on how we rehabilitate the athlete to return them to the playing field.
Head trauma was no longer a taboo topic, but that wouldn't stop the heavy knocks. And the impacts extend far beyond sport itself.
And my anxiety levels is off the chart. Sometimes I can't be in places certain long, so I have to retreat back to my own place because the anxiety makes my heart beat faster.
There is other things to it also, that you see it across all age groups. Before, everyone assumes that it's more related to younger people being in extreme sports and so on, but you actually see it across all different age groups, especially also with e-biking, where you see a lot of elderly people today also going out biking and so on. So you see it across all different age groups, which is of course very important to address.
Max Strandwitz is the CEO of MIPS, a company who want to reduce the rotational motion to the brain in the event of a crash. So what does this mean?
If you throw something with an angle and you look at the ball, you will see that the ball is starting to spin, and that is what the rotational motion is. Tangential force will actually impact the ball both from a vertical angle and from the side, which will cause the ball to rotate, and that's what is extremely dangerous.
Well, his company has a simple mission: lead the world towards helmet safety to reduce brain trauma.
Well, like I always said, the best accident is the one that didn't happen. So of course, try to stay as safe as possible, try to be as cautious as possible. That's the best thing you can do. Secondly, is to wear a helmet.
While some extreme sports already wear helmets, it apparently isn't enough in some cases. Even some of the slightest knocks can lead to a concussion. Scientists think that even those hits that aren't seen on television could, of course, lead to CTE. So that may mean that some of our favourite games aren't as safe as we first thought.
That ball hit Stanton right up in the face area, it looked like.
Oh yeah, just a little bit like.
Consequently, too many players, coaches, parents, and fans remain unaware of what is now known.
It's opened up a legal loophole for sporting codes, and researchers are doing their best to crack it.
I think that whatever arguments existed in the 1970s do not exist today, when sport has been corporatized and commercialized to a massive extent. I just don't think there is any rational reason for their continued exemption.
While prevention is the #1 priority, governments, insurance, and sports teams themselves are at the table to help with recovery.
So if you're an athlete and you are suffering cognitive effects of repeated brain trauma that only materializes years after your career ends, you are invariably left to your own devices to support your own treatment and compensation.
So when our favourite sports are winning the ratings, and of course fans alike, it's hard to talk about the things that hurt. But it could just be the key to saving a life.
Your helmet saved your life.
Your helmet saved my life.